Hi Pratibha. Those who are online, please say hi in the chat window so that we can start the session. Hi Shraddha, Sharda. So is it Shraddha or Sharda? Hi Jay. Hi Krishna. Pratibha, can you message in the group that the class is started so that other people can also join? Good, I think you already messaged. Great, so let us start the session. So in this session we will be discussing about how to convert an NFA to a DFA. तो पिछले कुछ वीडियोस के अंदर हमने डिस्कस किया था व्हाट इज द इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ थ्योरी ऑफ कंप्यूटेशन. दैट इज समथिंग दैट वी हैव ऑलरेडी डिस्कस्ड. थ्योरी ऑफ कंप्यूटेशन का जो इंट्रोडक्शन है वो हम लोग ऑलरेडी डिस्कस कर चुके हैं. ओके शारदा, गुड. तो थ्योरी ऑफ कंप्यूटेशन का जो इंट्रोडक्शन है वो हम ऑलरेडी डिस्कस कर चुके हैं एंड वी हैव आल्सो डिस्कस्ड अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स. हमने डिस्कस किया था सम एग्जांपल्स ऑफ डीएफएस एंड वी हैव सीन व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन एन एनएफए एंड डीएफए. एनएफए और डीएफए के बीच में जो श्योर आई थिंक प्रतिभा दिस स्ट्रीमिंग इज गोइंग फाइन ऑन माय एंड, तो ऐसा कुछ इशू नहीं है फ्रॉम माय एंड. सो आई जस्ट चेक योर इंटरनेट कनेक्शन. अगर मेरी तरफ से होगा तो आई विल लेट यू नो. ओके. So in the previous video we have already discussed about what is the difference between an NFA and DFA. और NFA और DFA के बीच में जो difference है हम already discuss कर चुके हैं. And in this class again we will be continuing from that point onward. In this class we will be having two major agendas. The first agenda is to understand what is how can you convert an NFA to a DFA. एक NFA को आप DFA में कैसे convert करेंगे. And second major agenda will be to understand कि जो DFAs हैं या फिर अगर आपको कोई भी फाइनाइट ऑटोमेटा दे दिया जाए, इफ यू हैव एनी फाइनाइट ऑटोमेटा देन हाउ कैन यू मिनिमाइज दैट फाइनाइट ऑटोमेटा. दीज आर द टू थिंग्स दैट वी विल बी डिस्कसिंग इन दिस सेशन. तो जल्दी से प्लीज बी एक्टिव एंड एज सून एज यू आर रेडी टू स्टार्ट प्लीज राइट डन इन द चैट. तो अगर आप रेडी हैं स्टार्ट करने के लिए प्लीज ब्रिंग योर पेन एंड पेपर और जल्दी से जितने भी लोग देख रहे हैं स्ट्रीमिंग को हिट द लाइक बटन. जल्दी से जो देख रहे हैं. आई थिंक 14 पीपल आर वाचिंग, सो आई गेस यू गाइस कैन हिट द लाइक बटन. 7 लाइक्स हो गए. चलो, सो मे बी वी कैन स्टार्ट जल्दी से और मुझे थोड़े से और लाइक्स चाहिए. गुड 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 गुड. चलो लेट अस स्टार्ट. तो हमारे पास जो टॉपिक है, द टॉपिक इज हाउ टू कन्वर्ट एन एनएफए टू अ डीएफए. एक एनएफए को आप डीएफए में कैसे कन्वर्ट करेंगे. सो देयर आर वेरियस स्टेप्स. तो हम लोग सिर्फ एग्जांपल से समझेंगे. सो वी विल बी टेकिंग अ फ्यू एग्जांपल्स और उन एग्जांपल्स की हेल्प से हम समझेंगे कि हम एक एनएफए को डीएफए में कैसे कन्वर्ट कर सकते हैं. ठीक है. तो सबसे पहला आपका जो टॉपिक है, लेट अस टेक सम एग्जांपल्स. सो फर्स्ट एग्जांपल इज लेट अस अज्यूम दैट आई विल टेक इजी फर्स्ट. पहले कुछ इजी एग्जांपल्स होंगे, देन वी विल टेक सम डिफिकल्ट एग्जांपल्स. ओके. और आई शुड से आई थिंक देयर इज नो रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ डिफिकल्ट एग्जांपल्स आल्सो यहाँ पर, बिकॉज दिस एंटायर प्रोसीजर इज सो इजी कि आपको डिफिकल्ट एग्जांपल्स लेने की भी जरूरत नहीं है. इवन इफ यू टेक इजी एग्जांपल्स देन स्टिल यू विल बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड इट मोर इजीली. ओके. तो सबसे पहले हमारे पास है, लेट अस से द लैंग्वेज इज स्ट्रिंग्स दैट आर स्टार्टिंग विद ए, दैट आर स्टार्टिंग with the symbol A, and this is for summation is equal to a comma b. This will be our first example. So second example will be strings that are ending with symbol A. Then we'll be having our third examples, which will be strings that are starting with symbol AB. and the fourth example will be strings that are ending with symbol AB. Right, so these are very very easy examples. चारों example जो मैंने लिए हैं, all these 4 examples are very easy examples. So maybe we can discuss with these 4 examples. Okay. तो जो सबसे पहला example है, the strings that are starting with symbol A, I can create an NFA for this, and NFA will be very very easy. So कैसे आप बना सकते हैं? You have an initial state which is Q0, और अगर स्टार्टिंग में आपके पास सिंबल A आया, then you can go to the state Q2 and you are going to accept everything, right? By looking at this example, you can say, sir, this example is an NFA. ये example जो है एक NFA का example है, and we want to convert this NFA to a DFA. हमें इस NFA को एक DFA के अंदर convert करना है, okay? तो कैसे आप convert करेंगे? So step number 1 is create a state transition table for this. इसके लिए आप state transition table बनाएंगे. So your state transition table will be looking something like this. That you have a symbol A, you have a symbol B, and you have a state Q0 and you have a state Q1. So Q0 is your initial state, and here Q1 is basically your final state. Q1 is your final state. Make it Q1 instead of Q2. Make it Q1. Okay. अब सबसे पहला स्टेप क्या है हमारे पास? The first step here is fill this transition table. Q0 के अंदर अगर हमने A देखा, then we are going to Q1. But Q0 के अंदर अगर हमने B देखा, then we are going to 5. Okay. उसी तरीके से अगर हमारे पास Q1 है, Q1 के अंदर if you have seen A, then we are going to the state Q1 itself, और Q1 के अंदर अगर हमें B मिला, तब भी हम लोग Q1 के अंदर ही जा रहे हैं. So it is very easy state transition diagram. अब इस NFA में आप चेक कर सकते हैं कि अगर आपके पास कोई इनपुट है, जैसे अगर हमारे पास इनपुट A है, then we are only going to one state. हम 2 अलग अलग स्टेट्स पर नहीं जा रहे. अगर आपके पास इनपुट B है, तो हम लोग 2 अलग अलग स्टेट्स पर नहीं जा रहे. We are only going to one single state. ओके, तो हम किसी भी जगह पर 2 अलग अलग स्टेट्स पर नहीं जा रहे. एंड वी हैव ओनली वन एंट्री विच इज अनफिल्ड. अगर आपका सिर्फ एक ही अनफिल्ड एंट्री है विच इज अ 5 एंट्री. सो 5 इज बेसिकली इट इज रिप्रेजेंटिंग अ डेड कॉन्फ़िगरेशन. तो हमें करना ये है कि सबसे पहले इसके अंदर जो डेड कॉन्फ़िगरेशन है, उस डेड कॉन्फ़िगरेशन को एलिमिनेट करना है. तो जहां पर भी आपके पास 5 है, उसके लिए हम लोग एक डमी स्टेट्स बनाएंगे विच इज अ डेड स्टेट. तो इसके साथ हम लोग एक यहाँ पर इस जगह पर एक डेड स्टेट को जोड़ देंगे, एंड वी आर गोइंग टू फिल दिस एंटायर एंट्री. दैट्स इट. अब ये जो डायग्राम है, दिस डायग्राम विल बी रिप्रेजेंटिंग अ DFA. अगर आप इसको डायग्राम को बनाएंगे, सो यू विल सी कि हमारे पास 3 स्टेट्स है अब आपके पास. एक स्टेट है Q0, एक स्टेट है Q1, एक स्टेट है D. Q0 इज योर इनिशियल स्टेट, Q1 इज योर फाइनल स्टेट, राइट. अगर आप इसको पूरे डायग्राम को चेक करेंगे, Q0 के अंदर A गया तो हम लोग Q1 के पास गए, और Q0 के अंदर B दिया तो हम लोग D के पास गए. दैट इज योर डेड कॉन्फ़िगरेशन. अगर Q1 के अंदर A दिया और B दिया, तब भी हम लोग Q1 के पास ही जा रहे हैं. और D के अंदर अगर हमने A दिया या B दिया, दोनों केस में हम D के पास ही जा रहे हैं, विच इज अ डेड कॉन्फ़िगरेशन, राइट. तो ये जो एग्जाम्पल था, इट वॉज अ वेरी इजी एग्जाम्पल. इस एग्जाम्पल में कुछ भी स्पेशल नहीं है. अब यहाँ पर सबसे इजी बात ये थी देखने के लिए कि आपके पास अगर सिंबल A आए या फिर सिंबल B आए, राइट, हर केस में आप सिर्फ एक यूनिक स्टेट पर जा रहे थे ओरिजिनली. तो हमारे पास कोई ऐसा केस नहीं था जहां पर हम एक से ज्यादा अलग अलग स्टेट्स पर जा रहे हो. इन एवरी केस वी वर गोइंग टू एन एग्जैक्टली वन यूनिक स्टेट. तो इट वाज वेरी इजी इन दिस केस कि हाउ कैन यू कन्वर्ट दिस NFA टू DFA, राइट. बट देयर माइट बी सम एग्जांपल्स जहां पर एक साथ स्टेट पर जा सकते हैं. जल्दी से इसको राइट डाउन कर लीजिए एंड राइट डाउन इन द चैट विंडो आफ्टर राइटिंग इट डाउन, ताकि मैं इसको रब कर सकूं. इफ इट इज क्लियर, इसको नोटबुक में लिखिए और राइट डाउन इन द चैट विंडो. वेरी इजी एग्जांपल. So first example is done, I guess. So I'll take many examples, not just these 4. इसके अलावा भी हम लोग काफ़ी examples लेंगे, but just main aim is कि आपको समझ में आना चाहिए. If you are able to understand this, तो हमारे लिए बहुत अच्छा है, right? So first one is done. So take the second example. The second example is strings that are ending with symbol A. जो strings A symbol से end करती है, हमें उन strings को यहाँ पर लेना है, okay? जैसे कि what are the strings that are ending with symbol A? इसके लिए आप NFA कैसे बनाएंगे? For the second example, initially you are at a state Q1. Beginning में आपके पास A या B कुछ भी आ जाए, you can have any configuration A or B, but as soon as your string is ending with symbol A, you'll go to the state Q2 and you're going to accept it. अब इसको देख सकते हैं, this is clearly representing a NFA. This diagram is representing an NFA and it is not representing a DFA, राइट. वाई इट इज रिप्रेजेंटिंग NFA? बिकॉज फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल Q1 स्टेट पर A सिंबल A के लिए आपके पास दो अलग अलग ट्रांजिशन है. एक ट्रांजिशन ये वाला है और एक ट्रांजिशन ये वाला है. सेम सिंबल के लिए यू हैव टू डिफरेंट ट्रांजिशन. अगर आप Q2 स्टेट को देखते हैं तो Q2 स्टेट पर आपके पास सिर्फ A या B किसी भी सिंबल के लिए कोई भी ट्रांजिशन नहीं है. तो ये आपका क्या दिखा रहा है? दिस इज रिप्रेजेंटिंग अ NFA. अब इसको DFA में कैसे कन्वर्ट करेंगे? सबसे पहला स्टेप है, इसके लिए स्टेट ट्रांजिशन टेबल बनाओ. तो आपके पास दो इनपुट सिंबल्स थे विच इज A एंड B, और आपके पास दो स्टेट्स हैं विच इज द स्टेट Q1 एंड विच इज द स्टेट Q2. तो आपके पास दो इनपुट सिंबल है और दो ट्रांजिशंस हैं, राइट. अब हम लोग क्या करेंगे, यहाँ पर Q1 के अंदर अगर A दिया तो हम Q1 के पास भी जा रहे हैं और Q2 के पास भी जा रहे हैं, राइट. आप देख सकते हैं क्लियरली कि अगर आपने Q1 के अंदर A दिया तो आपके पास एक ये ट्रांजिशन है, और Q1 के अंदर अगर A दिया तो आपके पास ये ट्रांजिशन भी है. तो आपके पास दो अलग अलग ट्रांजिशन है एक ही सिंबल के लिए. लेकिन अगर Q1 के अंदर आपने B दिया तो आप सिर्फ स्टेट Q1 के पास ही जा रहे हैं. तो हम लोग दो अलग अलग स्टेट पर नहीं जा रहे हैं, बस यहाँ पर एक यूनिक स्टेट पर जा रहे हैं. लेकिन अगर आप Q2 को चेक करेंगे, Q2 में आप A दें या फिर B दें, दोनों केसेस में आप जा रहे हैं 5, यानी कि इट इज अ डेड कॉन्फ़िगरेशन. अब ये एग्जाम्पल पिछले एग्जाम्पल से थोड़ा सा अलग है. हाउ कैन आई से कि ये अलग है? क्योंकि यहाँ पर सिर्फ हमारे पास डेड कॉन्फ़िगरेशन नहीं है, लेकिन एक ऐसा केस भी है जहाँ पर एक ही सिंबल को देखने पर हम दो अलग अलग स्टेट्स पर जा रहे हैं. तो हमें सबसे पहले एम हमारा ये है कि ये जो स्टेट्स हैं, ये वाला जो केस है, पहले इस केस को रिजॉल्व करेंगे, और लास्ट में अगर हमारे पास कोई डेड कॉन्फ़िगरेशन बचती है तो हम उसको रिजॉल्व करेंगे. ओके, तो पहले केस को रिजॉल्व करते हैं. तो कैसे करेंगे? फिर से इस टेबल को बनाएंगे. हमारे पास A है, B है, और हम लोग स्टार्ट करेंगे हमेशा स्टार्ट स्टेट से. बाकी स्टेट हम लोग एक्सप्लोर करेंगे. स्टार्ट स्टेट आपके पास है Q1. थोड़ा ध्यान से समझना, लिटिल बिट ट्रिकी हो सकता है. सबसे पहले आपके पास है दो अलग अलग Q1 एंड Q2. अब हमें करना ये है कि इन दोनों स्टेट को कंबाइन करेंगे, और कंबाइन करके वी आर गोइंग टू मेक वन स्टेट ओनली विच इज Q1 Q2. और ये जो Q1 Q2 है, ये एक यूनिक स्टेट है. इट इज अ नेम ऑफ वन स्टेट. यहाँ पर क्या था, एक सेट रिप्रेजेंटेशन थी. सेट रिप्रेजेंटेशन में हमने दिखाया था Q1 इज अ डिफरेंट स्टेट एंड Q2 इज अ डिफरेंट स्टेट. अब हमें क्या करना है, इन दोनों को कंबाइन करके हम लोग सिर्फ एक ही स्टेट बनाएंगे. ओके, क्लियर है सबको? अब उसके बाद अगर आपके पास सिंबल B है तो आपके पास हम Q1 स्टेट पर ही जाएंगे. क्लियर? अब देखो, करना ये है कि अब इसके बाद हमें इस Q2 को नहीं लेना, राइट. हमें करना ये है कि यहाँ पर जो जो न्यू स्टेट्स आएंगी हमें सिर्फ उनको एक्सप्लोर करना है, rather than जो यहाँ पर स्टेट है ऑलरेडी. अब जैसे कि यहाँ पर Q1 एक स्टेट है, Q1 हम ऑलरेडी डिफाइन कर चुके हैं, लेकिन एक नई स्टेट है यहाँ पर Q1 Q2. तो अब एक न्यू स्टेट बनाएंगे यहाँ पर Q1 Q2, और इस Q1 Q2 के लिए इन कॉन्फ़िगरेशंस को देंगे. अब वो कॉन्फ़िगरेशंस कैसे देंगे? बहुत सिंपल है. जहां पर भी Q1 था और Q2 था, दोनों को कंबाइन करो और दोनों का यूनियन ले लो. सो Q1 यूनियन Q2. तो यहाँ पर क्या होगा, Q1, Q2, 5. तो इन दोनों का अगर आप यूनियन लोगे तो यूनियन लेने से आपके पास आएगा सिर्फ Q1 एंड Q2. सिर्फ आएगा आपके पास Q1 एंड Q2. और इन दोनों का यूनियन लेंगे तो Q1, 5. तो इससे क्या होगा, आपके पास सिर्फ एक ही चीज बनी आपके पास विच इज Q1. दैट्स इट. अब देखो, हमने यहाँ पर जो है Q2 स्टेट को कहीं पर लिया ही नहीं है. जो Q2 स्टेट है इसको कहीं पर नहीं लिया, हमने बस जो न्यू स्टेट बनी है उसको एक्सप्लोर किया. अब अगर इसके लिए आप डायग्राम बनाएंगे तो इसका डायग्राम कैसा बनेगा? द डायग्राम विल लुक समथिंग लाइक दिस. सबसे पहली स्टेट आपके पास Q1 है, दूसरी स्टेट है आपके पास Q1 Q2. ये एक स्टेट का नाम है. इनिशियल स्टेट आपके पास Q1 है. Q1 के अंदर सिंबल A दिया तो आप Q1 Q2 के पास गए, और Q1 के अंदर अगर सिंबल B दिया तो आप Q1 के पास ही रहे. लेकिन अगर Q1 Q2 के अंदर सिंबल A दिया तो हम Q1 Q2 के पास ही रहे. लेकिन अगर Q1 Q2 के अंदर हमने सिंबल B को दिया तो हम Q1 के पास गए. अब आप चेक कर सकते हैं, दिस इज रिप्रेजेंटिंग द एग्जैक्ट सेम डायग्राम जो हम चाहते थे. दिस इज रिप्रेजेंटिंग द स्ट्रिंग्स विच आर एंडिंग विद A. तो इस तरीके से आप ये जो आपका NFA है, इस NFA को कन्वर्ट करके आप इस तरीके से एक DFA को बना सकते हैं. इट इज़ वेरी वेरी इजी एग्जाम्पल. यू कैन इजीली सी कि कितना इजीली हम लोगों ने एक NFA को DFA में कन्वर्ट कर लिया. ओके, इसको नोट करके राइट डाउन इन द चैट विंडो अगेन. गुड, इजी एग्जाम्पल है, राइट. इसमें कुछ भी डिफिकल्ट नहीं है. इट इज़ अ वेरी वेरी इजी एग्जाम्पल. अगर नहीं भी समझ आया, डोंट वरी, आई हैव लॉट ऑफ एग्जाम्पल्स. मैं और भी एग्जाम्पल्स लूंगा तो उससे आपको जरूर समझ में आएगा. सो हमारे पहले दो एग्जाम्पल हो चुके हैं. थर्ड एग्जाम्पल इज स्ट्रिंग्स दैट आर स्टार्टिंग विद द सिंबल AB. स्ट्रिंग्स जो कि AB सिंबल से स्टार्ट हो रहे हैं, राइट. तो इसके लिए हम लोग सबसे पहले एक NFA का डायग्राम बनाएंगे. सो NFA विल लुक समथिंग लाइक दिस. बिकॉज स्ट्रिंग्स इज स्टार्टिंग विद द सिंबल AB, तो हमारे पास दो सिंबल है यहाँ पर A और B. तो दिस इज योर इनिशियल स्टेट Q1. आपके पास एक सिंबल A आया, यू विल गो टू द स्टेट Q2. आपके पास एक सिंबल B आया, यू विल गो टू द स्टेट Q3 एंड दिस Q3 इज एन एक्सेप्टिंग स्टेट. अब आप देख सकते हैं दिस डायग्राम इज रिप्रेजेंटिंग एन, अगेन इट इज रिप्रेजेंटिंग एन NFA, इट इज नॉट रिप्रेजेंटिंग एन DFA. तो कैसे करेंगे? सबसे पहले इसके लिए स्टेट ट्रांजिशन टेबल बनाओ. आपके पास एक सिंबल है A, एक सिंबल है B, तीन स्टेट्स हैं आपके पास Q1, Q2 एंड Q3. Q1 इज इनिशियल स्टेट एंड Q3 इज फाइनल स्टेट. ओके. अच्छा, प्रीवियस केस में हमने फाइनल स्टेट को नहीं स्पेसिफाई किया था. पहले क्या था, ओरिजिनल डायग्राम में Q2 फाइनल स्टेट था, तो वहां पर क्या होगा, जो हमारा मॉडिफाइड DFA बना तो वहां पर भी Q2 हमारी फाइनल स्टेट बनेगी. ओके. अब यहाँ पर चेक करो. सो यू विल अंडरस्टैंड दैट पॉइंट हियर. यहाँ पर Q1 के अंदर अगर A दिया तो हम Q1 के पास गए, लेकिन Q1 के अंदर अगर B दिया तो वी आर गोइंग टू 5. Q2 के अंदर अगर A दिया तो हम लोग कहीं पर नहीं जा रहे हैं, लेकिन Q2 के अंदर अगर B दिया तो हम लोग Q2 के पास ही जा रहे हैं. Q3 के अंदर A या B कुछ भी दे तो हम लोग जा रहे हैं Q3 के पास, राइट. सो दिस इज योर एग्जाम्पल, करेक्ट. अब हमें करना ये है कि इस एग्जाम्पल को कन्वर्ट करना है हमें एक DFA के अंदर. तो इसको अगर आप DFA में कन्वर्ट करेंगे, दिस थिंग इज वेरी वेरी इजी, बहुत ही इजी है. कैसे कन्वर्ट करेंगे? यहाँ पर कोई ऐसा स्टेट नहीं है जहाँ पर आपके पास दो अलग अलग स्टेट्स में जा रहे हैं, मतलब ऐसा कोई ट्रांजिशन नहीं है जिसमें एक ही सिंबल को देखकर आप दो अलग अलग स्टेट पर जा रहे हैं, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है, राइट. तो हमें सिर्फ करना ये है कि इस केस में जहाँ पर भी आपके पास ये 5 आ रहा है, तो हमें सिर्फ इन सभी 5 को रिजॉल्व करना है, इन सभी 5 को यहाँ से हटाना है. ओके ओके. सो आई डोंट नो कि आप किसका बोल रहे हैं, बट मे बी सर Q1 एरो A इज इक्वल टू Q2. सो यूर सेइंग Q1 के अंदर अगर A आएगा तो हम लोग Q2 के पास जाएंगे. ओके, विल सी, विल फिगर आउट, विल सी. आई डोंट नो व्हाट यू आर सेइंग, बट यू विल अंडरस्टैंड. तो यहाँ पर आपके पास कोई ऐसा नहीं है कि हम लोग एक ही सिंबल को देकर दो अलग अलग जगह पर जा रहे हैं. सो व्हाट वी आर डूइंग इज, यहाँ पर बस हमें इसको हटाना है, इस 5 को. तो इस 5 को कैसे हटाएंगे? बाय एडिंग ए डेड कॉन्फ़िगरेशन. तो सिंपली इस 5 की जगह पर हम लिख देंगे यहाँ पर a dead configuration. We can make a new state, maybe Q4, that will be a dead state. So हमें डालना है Q4, Q4 and Q4. अब अगर आप इस डायग्राम को चेक करेंगे, this diagram will be representing a DFA. अगर इसको बनाएंगे तो you can see we have 4 states. One state is Q1, second is Q2, third is Q3 and fourth one is Q4. Q1 के अंदर A दिया तो Q1 के पास गए, Q1 के अंदर B दिया तो Q4 के पास गए. Sorry, so this is the transition, right? So this is the problem. I guess you were referring to this one. तो Q1 के अंदर अगर A दिया तो हम लोग Q2 के पास गए थे. So this is the thing that you guys were referring. I understood my part. So अब करना ये है, Q1 के अंदर A दिया तो हम लोग Q2 के पास गए, और Q1 के अंदर अगर B दिया तो हम लोग Q4 के पास गए. उसी तरीके से Q2 के अंदर A दिया तो Q4 के पास गए, और Q2 के अंदर अगर हमने B दिया तो हम लोग Q2 के पास गए. Sorry, this was Q3. I think I made this somehow flow में थोड़ा सा गलत बना दिया. तो अगर इसके अंदर B दिया तो हम लोग Q3 के पास गए, राइट. उसी तरीके से Q3 के अंदर A या B कुछ भी दे तो हम लोग Q3 के पास ही जाएंगे. एंड दिस इज Q3 इज योर फाइनल स्टेट. जो Q3 है ये आपकी एक फाइनल स्टेट है. अब जो Q4 है, Q4 इज अ डेड स्टेट. तो Q4 स्टेट है वो ऐसा कैसा आपके पास रहेगा. ओके. So it was easy. तो by mistake I've done some mistake in making the transition table. तो we'll take more examples तो सबको और clear हो जाएगा. Let me take more examples here. So next example will be much better as compared to these 3 examples, क्योंकि उसमें हमें कुछ नया सीखने को मिलेगा जो कि इन तीनों examples में नहीं था. तो अगले example में you can see it is NFA for strings ending with AB. तो यानी कि अगर आपके पास इनिशियल स्टेट है Q1, बिगिनिंग में आपके पास A या B कुछ भी हो सकता है, लेकिन जैसे ही आपके पास एक सिंगल A आएगा सो आप Q2 पर जाएंगे, और फिर B आएगा तो आप बोलेंगे स्ट्रिंग एंड हो गई है, देन यू विल गो टू Q3. सो दिस इज रिप्रेजेंटिंग योर NFA. नाउ वी वांट टू कन्वर्ट दिस NFA टू अ DFA. हमें इस NFA को DFA में कन्वर्ट करना है. So this is your state transition table. You have symbol A, you have a symbol B, and you have 3 states which is Q1, Q2 and Q3. Q1 के अंदर अगर आपने A दिया तो हम Q1 के पास भी जा रहे हैं और साथ साथ में Q2 के पास भी जा रहे हैं. आपके पास 2 अलग अलग स्टेट्स हैं. Q1 के अंदर अगर सिंबल B दिया तो हम लोग सिर्फ Q1 के पास गए. नेक्स्ट Q2 के अंदर अगर हमने सिंबल A दिया तो हम लोग कहीं पर नहीं जा रहे. सो बेसिकली इट इज अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ बोथ ऑफ प्रीवियस केसेस. और Q2 के अंदर अगर हमने सिंबल B को देखा तो हम Q3 के पास जा रहे हैं. ऐसे ही Q3 के अंदर अगर हम सिंबल A को देख रहे हैं तब भी हम कहीं नहीं जा रहे, और सिंबल B को देख रहे हैं तो हम कहीं पर नहीं जा रहे. सो दिस इज योर एग्जाम्पल. ठीक है, अब इसको थोड़ा सा पिछले से ध्यान से समझना, क्योंकि इसमें दोनों पिछले जो कॉन्सेप्ट हैं हमने जो स्टडी किए थे वो सभी कॉन्सेप्ट यहाँ पर कंबाइन हो जाएंगे. ओके, अब करना दिए है, देखो इनिशियल स्टेट इज Q1. सो विल स्टार्ट विद द Q1 स्टेट. यहाँ पर फाइनल स्टेट कौन सी थी आपकी? Q3. ठीक है, तो Q1 के अंदर A दिया तो हम Q1 Q2 के पास गए, तो हम दोनों को कंबाइन करके एक न्यू स्टेट बनाएंगे विच इज Q1 Q2. दिस विल बी अ न्यू स्टेट. और Q1 के अंदर अगर B दिया तो हम लोग Q1 के पास ही जा रहे हैं. ठीक है, अब हमें यहाँ पर जो तीनों स्टेट्स है Q2 और Q3 वो उसको नहीं देखना अभी. अब हमें सिर्फ ये देखना है कि जो जो स्टेट्स यहाँ पर आएगी न्यू, तो हमें सिर्फ वो न्यू स्टेट्स को ही एक्सप्लोर करना है. जैसे कि यहाँ पर Q1 एक स्टेट है जिसको हम ऑलरेडी डिफाइन कर चुके हैं, लेकिन हमारे पास एक नई स्टेट आई है विच इज Q1 Q2. तो हम लोग Q1 Q2 को एक न्यू स्टेट बनाएंगे. अब इसके ट्रांजिशंस कैसे बनेंगे? Q1 और Q2 जहां पर है इनको कंबाइन कर लो, इनको कंबाइन करो. तो इन दोनों को कंबाइन करोगे तो क्या आएगा? Q1 Q2 एंड 5 विच इज इक्वल टू Q1 Q2. अगर इन दोनों को कंबाइन करोगे तो आपके पास आएगा Q1 एंड Q3. यहाँ पर आ रहा है आपके पास Q1 एंड Q3. दिस विल बी अ न्यू स्टेट. करेक्ट. अब यहाँ पर ये जो ट्रांजिशन है, देखो ये Q1 Q2 है, इसको हम डिफाइन कर चुके हैं, बट एक नई स्टेट आई है आपके पास Q1 एंड Q3. तो हम इसको न्यू यहाँ पर बनाएंगे Q1 एंड Q3. तो यानी कि Q1 और Q3 जहां पर है दोनों को आपको कंबाइन करना है, इन दोनों का आपको यूनियन लेना है. तो आपके पास आएगा Q1 Q2 एंड 5 विच इज इक्वल टू Q1 Q2 ओनली. ठीक है, और यहाँ पर आप चेक करेंगे तो यहाँ से आएगा Q1, 5 विच इज इक्वल टू Q1 ओनली. तो यहाँ से आपके पास आएगा सिर्फ Q1. राइट. अब चेक करो, इज देयर एनीथिंग न्यू जो हमें रिसीव हुआ है? क्या हमने सबको डिफाइन कर दिया है? वी हैव Q1 ऑलरेडी डिफाइन कर चुके हैं, Q1 Q2 को डिफाइन कर चुके हैं, Q1 Q3 को भी डिफाइन कर चुके हैं, और हमारे पास कुछ भी न्यू अब नहीं आ रहा है. ओके, so what we can do here is that we can make these 3 states. So we have the state which is Q1, we have the state which is Q1 Q2, and we have the state which is Q1 and Q3. Okay, Q1 is an initial state. In Q1 if you give a symbol A you'll get Q1 and Q2. In Q1 if you give a symbol B you'll go to Q1 only. In Q1 Q2 if you give a symbol A then you'll go to Q1 Q2. If Q1 Q2 if you give a symbol B you'll go to Q1 Q3. Next, in Q1 Q3 if you give a symbol A you'll go to Q1 Q2, but if you give a symbol B you'll go to Q1. Okay, अब देखो यहाँ पर in this case in the original diagram the final state was Q3. In the original diagram the final state was Q3. Therefore in this diagram, in those states wherever we have Q3, wherever we have Q3, we are going to consider all those states as the final state, right? So here only one state is having Q3, so I'm going to consider this as a final state. And now you can see this diagram is representing our DFA, and this is a correct diagram, right? So if you get this procedure, so it might happen that you are not getting a minimized DFA, but definitely you will get a DFA. Okay, all these 3 diagrams, all these 4 examples are clear. Please have a look at it and ask if you have doubt. If all these examples are clear, I'll take one more. Any doubts in this so far? Good, you guys are very smart, superhuman and super intelligent, extraordinary people. I don't know how you got so much good skills. एक ही बार में सीख जाते हैं सब कुछ. Okay, so let me take one more example here for converting an NFA to a DFA. Which example should I take? So let me make an example for myself. Let us say the example is like this. Strings that are okay, let me take easy examples first before I take difficult ones. Strings that are starting, or make it ending, make it starting with A and ending with B. Strings that are starting with the symbol A and strings that are ending with the symbol P. Okay, so this is same string which is starting with A and B. So that means in beginning you should have A, in end you should have B, in between you can have anything. So the diagram will look something like this. We have initial state Q0. In starting, if you get a symbol A, you go to the state Q1. You can have anything in the between. In end, if you get a symbol B, you go to the state Q3 and you are going to accept it. So this is representing your NFA, and I think this NFA is correct, right? So it is saying that in the beginning you can have A, in the end you can have B, in between you can have any symbols which is A and B. So your first step will be to create a state transition table. So the state transition table will look something like this. We have two symbols which is A and B. We have three states which is Q0, Q1 and Q2. Initial state is Q0 and final state is Q3. So make it Q2 instead of Q3, make it Q2. Okay. Now in Q0, if I give a symbol A, I go to Q1, but if I give a symbol B, I'm going nowhere. In Q1, if I give a symbol A, I'm going to Q1, but if I give a symbol B, I'm going to Q1 as well as I'm also going to Q2. Now in Q2, if I see a symbol A, I'm not going anywhere. If I see a symbol B, I'm also not going anywhere, right? Very easy example, correct? So we are going to convert it for a DFA. So make the transition table again. This is A and B, and initial state here is Q0. So we'll start with the state which is Q0. In Q0, if I give a symbol A, I'm going to Q1, but if I give a symbol B, I'm going to phi. Correct? So you can see phi is not removed here. So we are not going to remove phi in the beginning. We are going to remove phi in the end. सबसे last में हम लोग phi को remove करेंगे. So phi will be removed at the end. Now we have a new state here which is Q1, and how can you get a Q1? You can get a Q1 by writing all of this. So in Q1 you have Q1. If you see a symbol A, you'll go to Q1. If you see a symbol B, you are going to combine both of them. So after combining, you will get a new state which is Q1, Q2. This will be a new state. Now that means I'm going to combine both of these states. For Q1 and Q2, I'm going to combine both of them. So take a union of them. So if I have the state which is Q1, Q2, I'll make a new state which is Q1 comma phi, which is equal to Q1 only. If I take this, so again it will be Q1, Q2. Okay. Now is there any new states? Still you can see we cannot find any new state. There's no new state whatsoever here. So from here you reach here. After reaching at this point of time, what you are going to do is wherever you have a phi, you are going to replace it by a dead state. So you can make a state Q4 which is a dead state, or you can make a state named D which is a dead state. So dead, dead and dead. Now you can see in this DFA we'll be having 4 states. The first state is Q0, the second state is Q1, the third state is Q1, Q2, and the fourth state here is a dead state. Now in the original diagram, Q2 was a final state. Q2 was a final state. So wherever we have a Q2 here, that will become a final state. So here only at this case Q2 is there. So we are going to make it as a final state. Okay, in Q0 if I see a symbol A, I'm going to Q1. In Q0 if I see a symbol B, I'm going to a dead state. In Q1 if I see a symbol A, I'm going to Q1. In Q1 if I see a symbol B, I'm going to Q1 Q2. In Q1 Q2 if I see a symbol A, then I'm going to Q1. In this state if I see a symbol B, I'm going to the same state. In dead state if I see a symbol A or if I see a symbol B, I'm going to the dead state only. So in this way you can easily convert this NFA to a DFA. Is it clear with all of you? Any doubts whatsoever till now? If you have any doubts, please ask. Okay, anyone else? Do you have any doubts? Please ask if you have any doubts. Yes, we have to convert the dead state in the last. If you don't do it, then you'll get a wrong answer. Okay, so let me take one more example, I guess. So I have one more example. Let me take it and convert that NFA to a DFA. So this is the example from the book Peter Linz. So this is your state which is Q0. Okay, and here we have a self loop with a transition 0, and then with the transition 0, 1 we are going to the state which is Q1, and after this with the transition of 0, 1 we are going to the state which is Q2, and here we have a self loop with 1. And this is figure number 2.14 in the book Peter Linz. So this example is from Peter Linz book. Okay, now we have to convert this NFA to a DFA. So first of all, make the state transition table. We have 0 and 1 are the input, and the states here are Q0, Q1 and Q2, and here Q1 is a final state. So if you give a 0 to Q0, you are going to Q0 as well as you are going to Q1. If you give a 1 to Q0, you are going to Q1 only. So here at state Q1, if you give a 0 and if you give a 1, you are going to a state Q2, and at Q2 you are always staying at Q2 only. So this is the state transition table. Now to convert it to a DFA, we have 0 and 1. Starting state is Q0. So here we have two states which is Q0 and Q1. Combine both of them, you get Q0 Q1, and here we have Q1 only. Now in this case again, this is a new state and this is a new state. So I'm going to elaborate any one of them. So let us elaborate Q0 and Q1 first. So that means I'm going to take a union of these two. So after taking a union of these two, you will get Q0, Q1 and Q2, and from here you will get Q1, Q2. So you understand that I've got a new state here as well as I've got a new state here, and this is also a state. So first of all let us explain Q1. So Q1 is Q2, Q2, Q2 and Q2, and this is a new state, so I have to explain this one also. So this is Q0, Q1 and Q2. I have to elaborate this. That means I'm going to take a union of all three of them. So after taking the union of all three of them, you'll get Q0, Q1 and Q2. And if you take a union of them, then you'll get Q1, Q2. Okay. Now this state here, it is defined. This state here is also defined. This state is not defined. So I'm going to define the state which is Q1 and Q2. So that means I have to take a union of these two, right? After taking the union of these two, you'll get Q0 and Q1 and Q2. Sorry, after taking a union of these two, right? So these two, this is different. So I have to take a union of these two. So after taking the union of these two, you will get Q2 only. And after the taking a union of these two, you will get Q2 only. Okay. So basically, is there any new states now? You will find out we have elaborated and defined all the new states. And now I'm going to make a diagram for this. I got a state which is Q0. I got a state which is Q0 Q1. I've got a state which is Q1. I've got a state which is Q0, Q1 and Q2. I've got a state which is Q1 and Q2. Initial state in the original diagram is Q0 and the final state in the original diagram was Q1. So what we have to do is, wherever we have Q1, I'm going to make it as a final state. Okay. So here we have a Q1, so this will be a final state. Here we have a Q1, this will be a final state. Here we have a Q1, this will be a final state. Here we have Q1, so this will be a final state. So we are getting 4 final states here. How many final states? 4 final states in this diagram. Okay. Now in these 4 final states, in Q0, if I see a 0, I go to Q0 Q1, and if I see a 1, I go to Q1. And here in Q0 Q1, if I see a 0, I'm going to Q0 Q1. If I see a 1, I'm going to Q1 Q2. Here if I see a 0, I'm going to Q2. So I think I have not defined Q2 here, so I have to define Q2 also. So Q2 from here is Q2 Q2 Q2, right? Q2 Q2 and Q2. So there's one more state which is Q2. So if I see in this, if I see 1, then I'm going to Q2, right? If I see a 1, I'm going to Q2, or if I see a 0, I'm going to Q2. Here also again, if I see a 0, I'm going to take a self loop. If I'm seeing a 1, then I'm going to Q1 Q2, right? And here again, if I see a 0, it will become Q1 Q2, and if I see a 1, again it will go to Q2, right? Here in Q2 we are going to have a self loop on this, right? So in this way you can clearly see we have just made this same diagram much more complicated, and this diagram is actually not minimized. You can understand from this diagram, because we are having 4 final states, and maybe there's some probability, there's some chance that we can even still minimize this diagram. Okay. But anyways, do you understand the part how we have done it? Let me again explain this one. Maybe I've done anything wrong, I can rectify that, but maybe let us see how we have done it. So we have this diagram. First of all, I've created a state transition table for this. State transition table says for Q0, if I give a 0, I go to Q0 as well as I'm going to Q1. For Q0, if I give a 1, I'm going to Q1. For Q1, if I give a 0 or if I give a 1, I'm going to Q2. For Q2, if I give a 0, okay, so there's a problem here. So there is a problem here, there is a problem here. So what is the problem? Problem is in Q2 we have a transition for 1 only. In Q2 we do not have a transition for 0. So I don't know why I make so many mistakes, but let me do it again. That is why I thought something is wrong, something is off, but my mistake, sorry, my bad. So in Q2, if I see a 0, I'm going to 5. Original table itself I created wrong. There was a mistake in the original table itself. So in Q2, if I see a 1, I'm going to Q2, but if I see a 0, I'm not going anywhere. This was the table. Okay. Sorry, my mistake. Now convert this again. This is 0 and 1, and here we have a state Q0. If I see a 0, I'm going to the state Q0 Q1. I'm going to make it as a new state. If I see a 1, I'm going to the state Q1. Okay. Now I have to define this state as well as this state. So let us define Q1 first. So if I define Q1, so just copy all this data. So after copying all this data, you get Q2 and Q2. Let us define this one, Q0 and Q1. So that means I have to take a union of these two. So union of these two will be Q0, Q1. So union of these two will be Q0, Q1 and Q2. If I take union of these two, it will be Q1 and Q2. Okay. And then if I look at this Q2, so I have defined this, I have defined this, I have defined this, right? So I have defined Q1 also. Now I have to define Q2, so I'm going to write Q2 here. So copy this entire data. So this will be Q2 and Q2. And then I have to define Q0, Q1, this is done, and I have to define this one, which is Q0, Q1 and Q2. That means I have to take union of all these three. So this will become Q0, Q1 and Q2. Union here also, so this will become Q1 and Q2. So that means I have to define Q1 and Q2. So Q1 and Q2. So after taking the union of these two, you will get Q2, and here also you will get Q2. Okay. I hope I have taken everything fine. So this is the problem. So again here there is a mistake, because in Q2 here you have 5, so I have to write 5 here. Fine. So I have one dead configuration. I have to remove this dead configuration. So I have to write D here, D here, and D here, and D here. So now you can see how many states we got. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we got 7 new states in this example. So is it clear? Is this example clear to all of you? So we got 7 new states. So if I make a diagram for this, maybe the diagram will look much difficult as compared to original one, but that will be a DFA. So if I make a diagram for this, that means I have to make 7 states. First state is Q0, second state is Q1, third state is Q0, Q1. Is it visible? Q0, Q1, is it visible? So let me check if it is visible. You can make it, but let me make it. Right. So next one is Q2. So I'm going to write Q2 here. Next one is Q0, Q1, Q2. So Q0, Q1 and Q2. Next one is Q1 and Q2. I'm going to write Q1 and Q2. And the next one is D. So we have D. So we got these 7 states. Now in the original diagram, Q0 was a final initial state. So I'm going to make it as an initial state. And here Q1 is a final state. So anywhere, wherever we got Q1, I'm going to make it as a final state. So this will be a final state, this will be a final state, this will be a final state, and this will be a final state. So you can see there are 4 final states in this diagram. Okay. Now in Q0, if I give a 0, I go to Q0 and Q1. If I give a 0, I go to this state. If I give a 1, I'm going to Q1. Here in Q1, if I give a 0, I go to Q2. And if I give a 1, I'm going to Q2 in both the cases. In this Q0 and Q1, if I give a 0, I'm going to this state. And if I give a 1, I'm going to Q1, Q2. I'm going to this state. Here in Q2, if I give a 0, I'm going to a dead state. And if I'm giving a 1, I'm going to Q2 itself. And here in Q0, Q1 and Q2, if I give a 0, I'm going to the same state. And if I'm giving a 1, I'm going to Q1, Q2. Correct? And here in Q1, Q2, if I give a 0 or 1, I'm going to Q2, right? So if I give a 0 or if I give a 1, I'm going to Q2 itself. And here in the dead state, if I give a 0 or if I give a 1, I'm going to the dead state itself, right? So you can see even the simple diagram, the same concept and the diagram which could have been represented much simply in a DFA, that same diagram becomes much complicated. Sorry, in this NFA it was so easy to understand, represent the concept, but it becomes very complicated to represent the same concept in case of a DFA. Now this DFA itself, it is not yet minimized. Maybe if I try and minimize this DFA, I can get a much smaller DFA. So it is better that sometimes when you have to solve a question, when you have to convert an NFA to a DFA, first of all convert that NFA to a DFA, and then you can try and minimize that DFA also. And that is also a very good example. Okay. So you are saying why we need to take individually Q1 and Q2? We have already Q0 and Q1, right? So we don't need to make Q1. नहीं ऐसा नहीं है. So this is not something that we are going to do. What we are going to do is, whenever we are going to encounter a new state, so this Q0 and Q1 is a new state, right? It is not the old state. So whenever you are going to encounter a new state, I have to define that new state. So when you are saying that you have a state which is Q1 and Q2, Q1 and Q2, they are two different states. These are two different states. But if I have a state Q1, Q2, this is a one new state. So these three are basically different states. So it is easy to solve the question this way. Instead of this, what you could have done is, you could have named it to something called as Q4. So wherever you have Q1, Q2, could have named it to Q4. This is also something that you could have done, right? So when you get a new state here, after combining them, that is representing a different one. Even if we have Q1 and Q2, but again we can do Q1 and Q2. This state is different and these two are different. Okay. So already a lot of videos are uploaded on NFAs. So I hope that you understood how can you convert a NFA to a DFA. You can take any example whatsoever, and it is very easy and straightforward regarding how can you convert an NFA to a DFA. So it is very easy. So let us do one thing. I'll take one more example here, but this time I will minimize a DFA. Okay. So listen, whenever I'm calling a finite automata, this includes both NFA and DFA, right? So if I'm specifically talking about a DFA, that means that is specifically talking about an NFA, that means it is not a DFA. But if I just say it is a finite automata, it means it can be NFA or it can also be a DFA. Okay? So finite automata does not mean that we are talking about DFA. It means it can be NFA, it can be DFA, or it can be epsilon NFA or anything. Okay? So let me take the next example here, which is minimization. Minimization of DFA. So the same concept is applicable on NFAs also. So whenever, even if I'm trying to do minimizing a DFA, the same concept is applicable on NFAs, or you can say finite automatas. So I should really say it as a minimization of a finite automata, but the examples that I will be taking is DFAs only. Okay. So we'll take easy examples first of all. So the first example is regarding summation is equal to a comma b, and this example is language is equal to strings that are starting, or strings, or make it even length strings. Even length strings. So I know we have already solved this problem earlier. A lot of times we have already done it. So but again I'm going to show you how can, if you create something wrong, if you create a DFA which is much bigger, how can you minimize that DFA. Clear? So assuming that this is a DFA which is initial state is Q0, it is a final state. If I get a symbol A or if I get a symbol B, I go to the state Q1. Again if I get a symbol A or if I get a symbol B, I go to the state Q2, which is again a final state. If I get a symbol A or if I get a symbol B, I go to the state Q3, which is a non-final state. If I get a symbol A or if I get a symbol B, I'm going to the state Q4, which is again a final state. And here we have a loop. Okay. We have already solved this problem before. हम लोग इस problem को काफी बार पहले already कर चुके हैं. So what I'm trying to do is I'm creating a bigger DFA. I know there's a very high chances we can still minimize it because we have already done it. So what I'm trying to do is I'm going to convert this to a minimal DFA. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the states which are zero equivalent. I'm going to find the states which are zero equivalent. Don't worry, I'll explain you what is the difference, what is the concept of equivalence. So first of all, I'm going to find the states which are zero equivalent. So zero equivalent means I'm going to write all the non-final states somewhere. I'm going to write final states somewhere. For example, here how many final states are there? There are 3 final states. Those final states are Q0, Q1 and Q4. Q0, Q2 and Q4. These are final states. All these are representing final states. And what are the non-final states here? Which is Q1 and Q3. इतना समझ आया? So what we have to do is, whenever I'm going to write zero equivalence means without giving a string or by giving a string of length 0, can you identify or can you differentiate between the states? देखो मेरे पास what I'm going to do is, I'm going to find zero equivalence, I'm going to find one equivalence, I'm going to find two equivalence, I'm going to find three equivalence, up to so on. What do I mean to say by this is, if we have a zero equivalence, it means by giving a string of length 0, can you differentiate between the states? अगर आप किसी स्ट्रिंग की लेंथ 0 लेंथ की स्ट्रिंग देते हो तो क्या स्टेट्स के बीच डिफरेंशिएट कर सकते हैं या फिर नहीं कर सकते? When I give a one equivalence means by giving a string of length 1, can you differentiate between the states? For example, here if we have symbol a comma b, so what are the strings of one length? That is single a or single b. When I try to find two equivalence, that means if I give a string of length 2, can you differentiate between the states? So that means here if I give a strings AA, AB, BA and BB, can you differentiate between the states in this case? If I say three equivalence, that means if I give a string of length 3, can you differentiate between the states? So here the strings of length 3, that can be AAA, AAB, ABA, ABB, BAA, BAB, BBA and BBB. So these are three length strings. Okay. Now in the same way, if I try to find a four equivalence means that if I give a string of length 4, can you differentiate between the states? So by this you can see finding 2 and 3 equivalents might become very complicated, but again there is a short trick to do that. हम उसको बहुत ही short way में कर सकते हैं. We can even do it in a much shorter way. I'll explain you. Okay. So I'll take the previous year questions first, understand the concept, then I'll take the previous year questions. Okay. So let us go step by step. You cannot make someone go to Mount Everest without telling him how to walk. So first of all you have to tell someone how to walk. Once he learns how to walk, then only he can run, and then he can maybe work out, he can climb a mountain or something. So you cannot make someone to directly go and jump to Mount Everest, right? So we go step by step. Now here when we say zero equivalence means that we have to differentiate between a final state and non-final state. So here 3 states are final states and 2 states are non-final. Just write them zero equivalence. Now we have to find one equivalent state. So how can you find a one equivalent state? What I'm going to do is, I'm going to give them string of length 1. So how many strings of length 1 are there? So we have single A, which is a string of length 1, and we have a single B, which is a string of length 1. So you have a string of A and B which are of string of length 1, right? So if I take any two set here, if I take any two states here, for example the states here are Q0 and Q1, these are two states. To these two states, if I give a string of length 1, that means if I give Q0 as A and if I give Q2 as A, then can they go to two different states, two different sets, I should say, not state. They go to two different sets? What do I mean to say by this? Let me show you. This is Q0 and Q2, right? We have Q0 and Q2. If I give A to Q0, then Q0 is going to Q1, and if I give A to Q2, if I give A to Q2, it is going to Q3. Okay, correct? In the same way, if I give B to Q0, if I give B to Q0, it is going to Q1. If I give B to Q2, it is going to Q3. Okay. देखो, right now I'm trying to make you understand the core concept. There's a shortcut way of solving the same problem. I'll tell you the shortcut way also, how can you do it fast. But first of all, let's try and understand the core concept, how this concept is actually working. So we'll first of all try and understand the core concept only, and then we'll move into how can you make the same procedure as very fast. Okay. So here in Q0, if I give a A, I'm going to Q1. In Q2, if I give a A, I'm going to Q3. So you can clearly see Q1 and Q3 both are in the same set. That means both of these two states are non-final states. Non-final states. correct? So that means you cannot differentiate between Q0 and Q2 by giving a symbol A. Okay. If I give a symbol B, then Q0 is going to Q1, Q0 is going to Q1, and even Q2 is also going to Q3, and these two are again non-final states. These are again non-final states. That means you cannot differentiate between Q0 and Q1. So what you have to do is, when you give a string of length 1, you have to check the previous set. Okay, if you take these two states, if you give the string of length 1, you have to check whether the new states that we are getting, they are in the same set or not. I'll explain you step by step, just follow through me. So here you cannot differentiate between Q0 and Q2. You cannot differentiate. So let me again repeat the same thing in Hindi. तो जो लोग हिंदी समझते हैं उनको ज़्यादा अच्छे से समझ में आएगा. You will be able to understand much easily. देखो मेरे कहने का मतलब क्या है, what I mean to say is, अगर ऐसा होता है कि हम जब इनको कोई सिंबल देते हैं, अगर यहाँ पर हम सिंबल A दे रहे हैं, तो अगर ये जो दोनों स्टेट हैं, एक आपके पास फाइनल आएगी, दूसरी नॉन फाइनल आएगी, तो यानी कि हम इन दोनों स्टेट पर डिफरेंशिएट कर पाएंगे. What you want to say is whether these two states are representing something else or they are representing the same thing. जैसे for example, if you give any symbol, so both Q0 and if you give a symbol A, both Q0 and Q2, they are giving a same non-final state. Right? It is not happening that this is going to a final state and this is going to a non-final state. We are just trying to see are they going to some different states, right? Now again, we found that Q0 and Q2, they are one equivalent, because you cannot differentiate between them if you give a string of length 1. Now I'm going to check the same between these two, right? See, if I check Q2 with Q4, that is automatically applicable, that Q0 and Q4, right? Because we have already checked it, so it is just like a transitivity property. If Q0 and Q2 are one equivalent and Q2 and Q4 are one equivalent, that means Q0 and Q4 are also one equivalent. So if I check about Q4, so to Q4, if I give a symbol A, I'm going to Q3. To Q4, if I give a symbol B, again I'm going to Q3. So you can clearly see Q2 and Q4, both of them are going to non-final states. That means you cannot differentiate between Q2 and Q4. So because you cannot differentiate between Q0 and Q2, you cannot differentiate between Q2 and Q4, therefore you cannot differentiate between Q0 and Q4. In the same way, you are also going to check between these states, are they one equivalent or not. So for Q1, if I give a symbol A, and for Q3, if I give a symbol A, so are they going to two different states? So for Q1, if I give a symbol A, I'm going to Q2. For Q3, if I give a symbol A, I'm going to Q4. And you can clearly see Q2 is a final state as well as Q4 is a final state. Both of them are final state. That means you cannot differentiate between Q1 and Q3. In the same way, for Q1 and Q3, if I give a symbol B to both of them, to Q1, if I give a symbol B, I'm going to Q2. And to Q3, if I give a symbol B, I'm going to Q4. And you can clearly see both of them are final states. So therefore, you cannot really differentiate between Q1 and Q3, because they are one equivalent. They are one equivalent. Now, if it happens that your 0 equivalence and 1 equivalence both are exactly the same, or if it happens that you have a y equivalence and you have a y plus 1 equivalence, if y equivalence and y plus 1 equivalence are both of them are same, in that case I'm going to stop, because still even if you try to find two equivalents, you cannot differentiate between the states. So it means that we can combine these states. We can combine the state Q0, Q2 and Q4, and we can combine the state Q1 and Q3. So these states can be combined. So after combining these states, what will be your diagram? What will be your diagram after combining these states? So we get Q2, Q0, Q2 and Q4. This is one state which is a set of final states. We have the state Q1 and Q3. So this is Q1 and this is Q3 is a set of non-final state. In the original diagram, Q0 was the initial state, so I'm going to make it as an initial state. Okay. Now if you look at all of them, right, अगर आप यहाँ check करेंगे, in Q0 if I give a symbol A or if I give a symbol B, I'm going to Q1, right, which is a non-final state, which is basically a same set. In the same way, to this same set, if I give a symbol A or if I give a symbol B, I'm going to a state which are all equivalents. So I can also make it like this. Now you can see the diagram. So this diagram is representing all those strings which are of even length. So all the even length strings will be accepted by this diagram. We can combine these states, and this is how we can easily prove how this theorem is working, or how this procedure is working. Do you understand this procedure? Still, if you could not understand, I have a lot of examples. I'll take more and more examples, and then you will understand more easily. I'll take a difficult example this time. Instead of taking an easy example, let me take a difficult one. Because only with the difficult examples you will be able to understand this. And this time I'll also tell you an easy procedure to solve the same problem. Easier procedure which can solve the same problem. I can make you understand better in Hindi, but again some of you do not understand Hindi. So I feel I can teach much better if I teach in Hindi rather than in English. But again, no issues. So are you able to understand? I mean, those people who are speaking in English, so every one of you, are you able to understand my language? So let me take this example. This example is from the book KLP Mishra. So in KLP Mishra, this is example number 3.14, and this is the diagram. Initial state is Q0, and this is B, and this is the state which is Q3. This is A, this is a transition which is for B. Then this is the state Q1. For A. Then this is the state Q2. And this is for B. And here for A we have this transition. And then we have Q4. And then we have Q5. This is the transition for B. And then we have Q6. This is self loop with B. This is the transition for A. Okay. And then we have a state Q7. This is A and this is B. So this is the DFA that we have, and we want to minimize this DFA. Okay. So note it down. This is a very good example. Step by step we will go and we will try to understand this example. And this is an example from the book KLP Mishra. KLP Mishra. There is an Indian author book. And let me tell you the page numbers also. This is your page number 95 and example number 3.14. Page number 95, example 3.14. Okay. So we'll go step by step in this example. So step 1 will be remove all unreachable states. Remove all unreachable states. How many states that are unreachable? So what are the states unreachable? If you start with the start state, and if you try and give any possible string whatsoever, if there is any state where you can never reach, those states will be called as unreachable. Okay. So if you look at this diagram, if you give any possible string whatsoever, any possible string from the start state, you will not be able to reach the state Q4, you will not be able to reach the state Q5, you will not be able to reach the state Q6, you will not be able to reach the state Q7. So Q4, Q5, Q6 and Q7, you will not be able to reach these states. So the first rule while you are minimizing a DFA is to remove all the unreachable states. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all of these states because these states are anyways unreachable. So these are unnecessary. So these states are anyways unnecessary, these are unreachable. Sorry. Yes, you have to check from the initial state. So you have to check if you give any possible string from the initial state, if there is some state where you can never reach, so those states will be called as unreachable. Okay. Now your second step will be, whatever the diagram is left, make a state truth table for, make a state transition diagram for this. Step 2, make state transition table, not the diagram. So make a state transition table for this. Okay. So your state transition table will look something like this. We have 4 states, which is Q0, Q1, Q2 and Q3. And here we have 2 symbols, which is A and B. Initial state is Q0 and final state is Q3. Okay. In Q0, if I give a symbol B, I'm going to Q0 itself. If I give a symbol A, I'm going to Q1. In Q1, if I give a symbol A, I'm going to Q0. If I give a symbol B, I'm going to Q2. In Q2, if I give a symbol A, I'm going to Q3. In Q2, if I give a symbol B, I'm going to Q1. Now in Q3, if I give a symbol A, I'm going to Q3 only, but if I give a symbol B, I'm going to Q0. So this is the very first step, second step, which is make the state transition table. You can verify, I'm not sure if I've done any mistake, you can just check whether this state transition table is correct or not. So both of them should match. So I tend to make a lot of mistakes a lot of time. So sorry. So I tend to make a lot of mistakes many times. So you can verify whether the state transition table is correct or not. Now after this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find 0 equivalent states. I'm going to find all the 0 equivalent states. Can you write what are 0 equivalent states here? Can you write in the chat window what are the 0 equivalent states in this diagram? What are the 0 equivalent states? So you make a set of all the final state, you make a set of all the non-final state, they will become 0 equivalent. So what are the non-final states here? So the non-final states are Q0, Q1 and Q2. Q0, Q1 and Q2, they are 0 equivalent, and the final state is only Q3. So this is a set of 0 equivalent state. Okay, good. So I want any one of you to at least participate in the chat. If you participate, at least I will understand that all of you are listening. तो सभी का participation बहुत ही ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है. अगर participation नहीं होगा, so I get demotivated. So why I'm doing the classes publicly, at least I get reply, at least I get people who watch the classes. Otherwise, there are very few people who attend the live classes. So I think Pratibha, you understand me. So I need people who watch, then it becomes much better to teach. Now with 1 equivalent states, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a string of length 1. So what is the string of length 1? That is single A or single B. Can you differentiate between the states if you give string of length 1? So for example, let us try and differentiate between Q0 and Q1. Let us try and differentiate between both of them. So to Q0, if you give symbol A, you are going to Q1, and to Q1, if you give symbol A, you are going to Q0, right? So we are going to Q1 and Q0. So Q1 and Q0 is originally in the same set, right? So that means both of them are non-final, correct? But if you give a symbol B to Q0, if you give a symbol B, you are going to Q0, which is in this set. If in Q1, if you give a symbol B, you are going to Q2, which is again in this set. So that means we cannot really differentiate between Q0 and Q1, right? So आप Q0 और Q1 के बीच में differentiate यहाँ पर नहीं कर सकते हैं. Okay, why? Because if you give a symbol A, or even if you give a symbol B, you are getting the output which is in the same set, in the 0 equivalent. तो 0 equivalence में वो same set के अंदर है. ठीक है, देखो थोड़ा सा नए तरीके से समझाऊंगा यहाँ पर. As compared to the previous example, I will teach in a different way in this example. Why? Because this is a shortcut manner to do the same work, right? So again I'm going to check, either you are going to check Q0 and Q2 or you are going to check Q1 and Q2, because if Q0 and Q1 are zero equivalent and we can prove that Q1 and Q2 are zero equivalent, therefore Q0 and Q2 will be zero equivalent. Or if Q1 and Q2 are not zero equivalent, therefore Q0 and Q2 will also not be zero equivalent. So let us compare Q0 and Q2. You can compare any one of them. So let us take Q0 and Q2. So in Q0, if you give a symbol A, I'm going to Q1. In Q2, if I give a symbol A, I'm going to Q3. So you can clearly see, here I'm going to Q1, here I'm going to Q3. So Q1 is in this set and Q3 is in this set. These are both different sets. That means you can easily differentiate between Q0 and Q2. So this will become a different set, right? And Q3 is already different. Is it clear this much? This much is clear, I guess. Now I'm going to find two equivalence. So why I'm finding two equivalence here? Because between 0 equivalent and 1 equivalent there was a change. If we cannot find any change, then we will not go for 2 equivalent, but because between 0 equivalent and 1 equivalent there was a change, hence we have to find 2 equivalent, right? So here we do not have to compare them, we just have to differentiate between those two states. So our aim is, whenever we try to find the equivalence, we are trying to differentiate between the states. हम states के बीच में differentiate करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, but we are trying to do is we are trying to identify whether if by giving one input, can you really differentiate between both of all those states. Let me give you one more example. See, in two equivalence, what we want to do is that we want to check strings of length 2, right? So that means if I give AA, AB, BA and BB, right? But if you want to check a strings of length 2, then you have to check two equivalence on this 0 equivalence, right? But अगर आप string of length 2 के साथ check कर रहे हैं, तो again you have to take the data from the 0 equivalence. But there is a shortcut. The shortcut is, instead of looking at 0 equivalence, just look at 1 equivalence, and in 1 equivalence we will compare with the string of length 2, the string of length 1. We do not really have to use a 0 equivalence. For 2 equivalence, either we can find the 2 equivalence from 0 equivalence. How will you find? Then you have to give the string of length 2, or we can find the 2 equivalence from 1 equivalence. How can we find? We just have to give the string of length 1. So for example, here I have a state which is Q0 and Q1. So in Q0, if I give a symbol A, I'm going to Q1. In Q1, if I give a symbol A, I'm going to Q1. So Q0 and Q1 both are in the same set right now. Okay. Now in Q0, if I give a symbol B, I'm going to Q0, right? Which is Q0. In Q0, if I give Q1, if I give a symbol B, I'm going to Q2, right? With the symbol B, these two are going to different states. Different sets basically. This is a different set and this is a different set. So in Q0, if I give a symbol B, in Q1, if I give a symbol B, both of them are giving outputs from a different set. So Q0 is going to Q0, which is in this set, and Q1 is going to Q2, which is in this set. So these are two different sets. So basically we can differentiate between these two states. Okay. Now you can clearly see all these states are basically represented differently. That means all these 4 states are very important. You cannot differentiate between these 4 states. Is it correct? So here, let me just check. Sorry. So we get these states here. So that means you cannot differentiate between these 4 states. These 4 states are very important and they cannot be minimized. Is it clear? So let me take one more example. Maybe I think if I have not made any mistake, then I have done it correctly, but we will be able to understand with more examples. Examples की ज़रूरत है. Without examples we will not be able to figure it out. Okay, maybe I have done any mistake, you can tell me. After all, I'm a human being and I make a lot of mistakes. If I make any mistake, you can always tell me. Okay. So this is the example, which is example number 3.13, page number 93 from KLP Mishra. And this is the initial state, which is Q0. So this is a very big example. So maybe you want to note it down while I'm making this diagram. This is Q1. This is the state Q2. Here we have a state Q5. Then we have a state Q4. Then we have a state Q6. Then we have a state Q3. And then we have a state Q1. So you can clearly see how many states are there. So transitions are like this. If I get a 0, I go here. If I get a 1, I go here. If I get a 1, I go here. If I get a 1, I go here. If I get a 1 here, I'll go here. If I get a 0, I go here. If I get a 0, I'll go here. If I get a 1, I'll go here. For 0, I can go here. So for 0, I can go here. For 1, here we have for 0. And this is for 1. This is for again 1. Then we have this is for 0. Then we have this transition, which is for 0. Okay, so let me verify the image. So note it down. First of all, this is Q0, do transition 0 and 1. Q1 we have a transition for 1 and we have a transition for 0. Q5 we have a transition for 0, we have a transition for 1. Q4 we have an in transition for 1. This transition is also for 1. This is for 0. Here it is 0, here it is 0, here it is 1, here it is 1, I guess. Yes, I'm correct. So this is the diagram. Okay, so you can see already that this is a very, very complicated diagram. So let us do the step number 1 is remove all unreachable states. Remove all the unreachable states. Is there any state which cannot be reached here? Please write this in the chat window. I want answers from all of you. Is there any states here which cannot be reached? क्या यहाँ पर कोई ऐसी स्टेट है जो आप रीच नहीं कर सकते? Is there any state? I want all of you to participate. Is there any state here which cannot be reached? Yes, Q3 state cannot be reached. So Q3 is unnecessary. Is there any other state which cannot be reached? क्या कोई ऐसी स्टेट है जो यहाँ पर हम जिस तक पहुँच नहीं सकते? Is there any other state which cannot be reached? So I guess only Q3 state is there which cannot be reached, right? So now step 2 is make a transition table. Make a transition table for this. Okay, so we have two input symbols, which is 0 and 1, 0 and 1, and we have the states Q0, Q1, Q2, Q4, Q5, Q6. This is the state Q7 actually. This is Q7. Okay. So I hope I've done it correctly, right? So this is Q7, right? This is Q7. So fill this table. In Q0, if you give a 0, you go to Q1. If you give a 1, you go to Q5. In Q1, if you give a 0, you go to Q6. If you give a 1, you go to Q2. In Q2, if you give a 0, you go to Q0. If you give a 1, you are going to Q2 itself. In Q4, if you give a 0, you are going to Q7. And if you give a 1, you go to Q4, Q5. In Q5, if you give a 0, you are going to Q2. And if you are giving a 1, you are going to Q6. In Q6, if you are giving a 0, you are going to Q6 only. If you are giving a 1, you are going to Q4. and in Q7 if you are going to give a 0, you are going to Q6, and if you are going to give a 1, you are going to Q2. Okay. Yes, so I have removed all the unreachable states. Okay, I have removed all the unreachable states. Can you verify whether this transition table is correct or not? Q6, Q2. For Q2 we have Q0, Q2. For Q4 we have Q7 and Q5. For Q5 we have Q2 and Q6. For Q6 we have Q6 and Q4, Q7, Q6 and Q2. Okay, so this is a state transition table. Now after this, find all the zero equivalent state. Zero equivalent state. So what are the zero equivalent state here? So we have only one final state, so which is Q2, and all the other states are non-final, so which are Q0, Q1, Q4, Q5, Q6 and Q7. So this is representing all the zero equivalent states. So in zero equivalent state, I'm going to write all the final states separately and all the non-final states separately. After this, I have to find one equivalent state. We have a one equivalent state. So for one equivalent state, I'm going to write this separately and these things separately. अब आपके पास क्या है? So you can clearly see we have Q0 and Q2. Let us compare them. So for Q0 and Q2, if I give a symbol A, so Q0 and Q2, if I give a symbol 0, then I'm going to Q1 and Q0, Q1 and Q0, Q1 and Q1, 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 Q1. So I've not written Q1 here, so I have to write Q1 also. Oh, this is Q1, so I made a mistake. So Q2 is final and Q1 is a non-final, right? So this is Q1 not and Q1, Q0 and Q1. If I give a 0, I'm going to Q1 and Q6. So Q1 and Q6 are in the same set. If I give a 1, I'm going to Q5 and Q2. Q5 and Q2 are in different set. You can clearly see Q5 and Q2 are in different set. That means between these two, if I give a symbol 1, so one is leading to a non-final state and second one is leading to a final state. So that means this Q0 and Q1 can be written separately. Both of them are representing two different configurations. Okay. Now I have to check Q0 and Q4. Q0 and Q4. So in Q0 and in Q4, if I give a symbol 0, one is going to Q1, second is Q7. Q1 and Q7 are in the same set. By giving symbol 1, one is going to Q5, second is also going to Q5, which is the same set. So basically Q0 and Q4 are representing the same thing. Now check Q0 and Q5, or you can say check Q4 and Q5, right? So Q4 and Q5, if I give a symbol 0, one is going to Q7, second is going to Q2. So that means these two are two different sets, because this is final, this is a non-final state. So what you have to do is, you have to check this Q5 with this Q1 now. Check Q5 with Q1, Q5 with Q1. If I give a symbol 0, then this is going to Q6, which is in this set. If I give a symbol 0, this is going to Q2, which is in this set. So obviously you can clearly differentiate between Q5 and Q1 also. Okay. Next is Q6. So सबसे पहले let us check Q6 with Q4. So Q6 with Q4. If I give a symbol 0, one is going to Q7, second is going to Q6, which is both are non-final. If I give a symbol 1, both of them are going to non-final. So basically you cannot differentiate between Q4 and Q6. So Q6 in this set. And then we have Q7. So Q7, and let us compare with Q6, Q7 and Q6. So on 0, both of them are going to Q6. On 1, both of them are going to Q4 and Q2. So Q6 in the same set, 4 and 2. This 4 is in different set and 2 is in different set. So obviously Q6 and Q7 are different. So we can differentiate between them. Now let us check Q7 with Q1. So if I give symbol 0, both of them are going to the same state. If I give a symbol 1, both of them are going to the same state. That means Q7 and Q1 are representing the same thing. So you can clearly see there's a differentiate between all of them. So we can differentiate between these states. Now we are going to find two equivalent states. two equivalent states. So how can I find two equivalent states? I am going to use these one equivalent to find two equivalent. So the states which are different, I'm just not going to do anything with them. So this Q2 is as it is, Q5 is as it is. So I have to differentiate between these three, and I have to differentiate between these two. So one is this is Q0 and Q4. So if you look at Q0 and Q4, so if you give a symbol 0, one is going to Q1, second is going to Q7. So Q1 is here and Q7 is here, which is the same set. If you give a symbol 1, one is going to Q5, second one is going to Q5, which is the same set again. So I cannot differentiate between Q0 and Q4. So let's check with Q4 and Q6. So if I give a symbol 0, one is going to Q7, second is going to Q6. So Q7 and Q6 are two different sets. These are two different sets. So there's basically I can differentiate Q6 here. Okay. Next, I have to differentiate between Q1 and Q7. So Q1 and Q7. So this is Q1 and this is Q7. If I give a 0, both of them are going to Q6. If I give a 1, both of them are going to Q2. So I cannot differentiate between Q1 and Q7. And the last one is already different. So there's a difference between one equivalent and two equivalent, both are different. So now we have to find three equivalent. So in three equivalent, I'm going to use the two equivalent. I'm not going to do anything here, I'm not going to do anything here, I'm not going to do anything here. I have to check this set as well as I have to check this set. So we have to check these two sets only, because here only we have want to differentiate. So here we have Q0 and Q4, Q0 and Q4. If I give 0, one is going to Q1, second one is going to Q7. So Q1 and Q7 here, then the same set. So you cannot differentiate, right? If I give a 1, they are going to Q5. So means you cannot differentiate between Q0 and Q4. These are different. And then we have Q1 and Q7. So Q1 and Q7 both are exactly the same copies. So you cannot differentiate between them. Right? Anyways, other states are the same. So you can clearly see three equivalent and two equivalent both are same. Now your three equivalents and two equivalents both are same. That means I can stop here and I can make a diagram for this. So I can combine the state which is Q0 and Q4. I can combine the state which is Q1 and Q7. So now I have a very less space here. So let me just write it down. So we have the states which is Q2. We got the state which is Q5. We got the state which is Q6. We got the state which is Q0 and Q4. We also got the state which is Q1 and Q7. Q1 and Q7. Correct? I hope it is visible. So initial state here is Q0. So I'm going to make Q0 here. Here we have Q0. So I'm going to make it as initial state. And then after combining, so here in this diagram also you can make changes wherever you have Q0 and Q4. So wherever you have Q0, you can make it as 04. So Q0 Q4. So 04. Okay, and wherever you have 4, you just write 04 like this. Okay, so wherever you have 4, 04. Wherever you find Q0, make it Q4. Q0 Q4, right? Q0 Q4, Q0 Q4. Everywhere you are going to make it Q0 and Q4. And wherever you can find Q1 and Q7, make them as same. So here we have Q1, I'm going to make it as Q7. Here we have Q1, I'm going to make it as Q17. And here we have Q7, so I'm going to make it as Q17. And here we have Q7, I'm going to make it as Q17. So now you got a transition table, and you can make a diagram for this. Okay, so this is now easier. So you can use this transition table to make this diagram. So for example, here you have 0, you are going to Q17. So for 0 you are going to Q17. For 1 you are going to Q5. Here for 0 you are going to Q6. For 0 you are going to Q6. For 1 you are going to Q2. Now here for 0 you are going to Q4. For Q2, if you get a 0, you are going to Q4. For Q2, if you get a 1, you are going to Q2 itself. Now for Q4, if you are getting a 0, you are going to Q17. And if you are getting a 1, you are going to Q5. You are going to Q5, already done, I guess. So then we have Q5, after getting a 0 you are going to Q2, and if you are getting a 1 you are going to Q6. In Q6, if you are getting a 0 you are going to Q6 only. If you are getting a 1 you are going to Q4. and here this is something that we have already drawn, right? So this is how you can make a transition diagram for this. Is it clear with all of you how we have done it? So सबसे पहले let me just repeat it again. So what we have done is we have created the state transition diagram. Now for the state transition diagram, first step is remove all the unreachable state. Second step is make the state transition table. Now for the state transition table, I'm going to find zero equivalent state. So that is set of final state and set of non-final state. Now using this zero equivalent, I'm going to find one equivalent. So for one equivalent, I have to compare these set where you have multiple values. So I'm going to compare every pair, right? So for example, here Q0 and Q1 I've compared. I have found that we can differentiate between them. Then I've compared Q0 and Q4. So I found that there's no differentiate between them. So I'm going to write them in one set. Then I found Q4 and Q6, right? So I found that they are in the same set. In the same way, I found Q5 with Q4, and they cannot be in the same set. So Q5 is a different set, and Q1 and Q7 they comes in the same set, right? And then I'm going to use this one equivalent table to find the two equivalents. So wherever we want to, we can just give a string of length 1 here and compare with the one equivalent table. And again here we can give a string of length 1 here to compare with. So to find 3 equivalent, we can give a string of length 1 and compare with the 2 equivalent. So basically for every equivalence table we find the lower one. For one equivalence we use 0 equivalence. For 2 equivalence we use 1 equivalence. For 3 equivalence we use 2 equivalence. Is it clear with all of you? Any doubt? So अच्छा लगा? Any doubts? Pratibha, Jay, do you have doubts? Good. I believe all of you understood this one. If you have doubt, you can always ask me. Okay, and I'm finishing this session here today, and maybe if we'll be having a next session today, then I'll update you in the Telegram group, and then we will see if we can have a next session today itself, because I think some of the students are not available now, and then we can have a discussion over there, and let's see if we have a next session today or we'll have a next session tomorrow. We can just update accordingly. Okay, so chalo, have some fun. Maybe I will update for the next session. Bye bye and take care to all of you. I guess you understood this one. You can use these examples if you want. Take care, dears. Take care. Take care.